Usually, when we think about the ancient kind of mystical world of high-level yoga,
Right.
and then the profoundly frustrating world of modern IT support, we imagine them on just completely different planets.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they feel entirely mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
One path is historically all about, transcending the material world, shedding attachments. And the other is, well, it's entirely about fixing the literal, tangible machinery of our daily lives.
Like a stressed out guy in a cubicle telling you to turn your computer off and on again.
Exactly.
But what if those two worlds didn't just collide, but actually fueled each other? So, welcome to today's deep dive. We're exploring this incredible true story based on a personal essay by Murty, BVNS, who is the founder of Project Antaryami.
It's such a fascinating piece of source material.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this. We're looking at the life of a man who inhabited both of these seemingly opposite worlds. We're talking about extreme, isolating spiritual discipline layered right on top of local IT support.
Yeah, and the crucible for this whole experiment is a remote ashram where he's teaching computer skills to tribal children.
Right.
Which is why this is so vital for us to explore today. It's really easy to look at the surface of the story and just dismiss it as a quirky cultural juxtaposition.
Sure, like a funny anecdote.
Exactly. But if we actually dig into his writings, it is this profound, rigorous study on mechanics of human attention.
It's a total masterclass.
It is. It's about the psychology of focus and how you effectively transfer complex knowledge across these massive cultural and generational divides.
Well, the author starts right out of the gate with this really fascinating, honestly kind of blunt philosophy on how humans learn. And it dictates everything he does later with these kids.
Right.
He draws this stark contrast between teaching kids and teaching adults. With kids, he says, well, it's fairly straightforward. They demand immediate gratification.
Yeah, if a kid is bored, you know it instantly.
Instantly.
Yeah.
But adults are a completely different animal. He observes that adults can endure hours of boredom or even like physical pain, but they are absolute masters at hiding their lack of focus.
He makes this brilliant observation about our default state as adults in a learning environment. He points out that adults will sit in a classroom, their minds just a million miles away, but they won't show a single muscle twitch on their faces.
Right, they just do the nodding thing.
Exactly. They disappear into their own internal dialogue, or they pull out their phones and secretly scroll under the desk, all while keeping this perfectly straight, attentive listening face directed at the teacher. Mentally, they are just completely inaccessible.
I mean, think about your last boring corporate Zoom meeting, right? We're all just as distracted as toddlers. We've just learned to wear that listening face while checking emails on a second monitor.
Yep.
But he goes on to say that ideal classrooms are made of ideal teachers, not ideal students. He even mentions that older generations of teachers used to just physically beat students out of frustration when they lost control.
Which is terrible.
Obviously terrible and archaic. So, I have to ask, how does his preferred method actually work in practice? He advocates for one-on-one teaching with absolute focus, but how do you fight that hidden adult distraction without being a tyrant?
What's fascinating here is the precise mechanism of his solution. He argues that a truly skilled teacher relies entirely on subtle visual cues.
Like reading the room.
Yes, exactly. They have to constantly read the micro-expressions of the room. The very second they sense that internal drift, that moment the adult's eyes slightly glaze over, the teacher doesn't stop and scold them.
Because that just makes people defensive.
Right. Instead, the teacher introduces a strategic pivot.
Kind of like throwing a verbal curveball.
Precisely. They change the topic slightly, offer a bizarre anecdote, or just a totally unexpected concept. It gives the student's brain a sort of active rest.
Oh, wow.
It jolts them out of their default mode, and then once the teacher has that wandering attention back, they seamlessly guide the focus back to the core material.
It makes me think of a highly trained sheepdog.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right. Like when a sheep starts to wander off, the dog doesn't bark and bite and terrify it.
Right.
It just quietly runs a wide circle, gets in its peripheral vision, and gently applies pressure to steer it back.
Without the sheep ever feeling attacked.
Exactly. But to be that sheepdog, to have that kind of hyper-awareness of someone else's brain, the teacher themselves has to possess this incredible, almost superhuman level of focus.
Which is the perfect bridge to understanding his own radical life choices. Because he didn't learn this in some standard corporate seminar.
Definitely not.
He learned this through an extreme, grueling dedication to traditional yoga. To understand his mastery over other people's attention, we have to look at the massive sacrifices he made to master his own.
Yeah, the timeline of his dedication is what really stands out to me in the sources. I mean, he owned a local bookstore for over 2 decades. He opened it in 1988.
Right.
But throughout all those years of selling books, he had this burning desire to fully commit to his yoga practice. So finally, in 2011, after waiting 23 years, he sells the bookstore to his cousin.
Just clears the deck entirely.
Clears the deck. And he dedicates his life completely to 2 things: local IT support and intensive isolated yoga. I mean, imagine waiting 20 years for your dream.
It requires an unbelievable amount of patience. And when he finally makes that transition, the physical reality of his practice is just staggering.
Yeah, he relocates to the Shanti Ashram in the Thotapalli Hills, right?
Yes. He spends months living completely alone in a tiny bachelor hut on a hill. He strips away every possible external distraction. He maintains absolute silence for 14 to 16 hours a day.
Wow.
He's eating only 1 meal a day just to minimize digestive lethargy.
And the meditation. Let's talk about the meditation, because the text says he achieved 144 hours of continuous meditation.
Yeah.
Just want to pause on that. 144 hours, that is 6 solid days. 6 days of unbroken, single-pointed focus.
It's hard to even wrap your head around.
And his guru's actual target for him was 168 hours, which is a full 7 days. What is actually happening to a human brain when it's forced into that state for nearly a week?
To understand the mechanics, we have to look past the idea of just, sitting quietly. This wasn't an endurance test.
Right, not as tough.
No, it was a rigorous, systematic training designed to achieve a specific neurological and spiritual state called dharana siddhi. In yogic philosophy, dharana translates to the binding of the mind to a single point.
So no wandering thoughts at all.
Absolute cessation of wandering thoughts. And siddhi means perfection. So physiologically, he is utilizing extreme neuroplasticity. By starving his brain of external stimuli, no talking, no moving, minimal food, and forcing his attention onto a single internal point, he is essentially rewiring his neural pathways.
He essentially built a supercomputer in his own mind before he ever tried to teach anyone about actual hardware.
That's a great way to put it.
But the lineage of the yoga he practiced is crucial here too.
Yeah.
He didn't just invent this routine in his hut. He was studying under his guru, Raparthi Rama Rao.
Yes, and Rama Rao had an interesting background himself. He had actually been a secretary at that very same ashram before founding his own spiritual center. He taught a system he called Purna Yoga, or integral yoga. He synthesized 4 massive traditions into one path for the modern age. He took Jnana Yoga, the path of intellect, Raja Yoga, the path of mind control, Hatha Yoga, physical mastery, and Karma Yoga, selfless action.
And the sources note this specific lineage traces back to some legendary roots. It stems from the Nath tradition.
Right, figures like Matsyendranath and Goraknath.
Yeah, and if you know North Indian history, the Nath tradition is famous, almost mythical, for practitioners developing supernatural abilities and mystical states.
They push the absolute limits of human physiology.
Here's where it gets really interesting. You have this modern guy steeped in a 1,000-year-old mystical tradition, alone on a mountain. But he doesn't just accept it as magic. What does he do? He comes down from the mountain, logs onto the internet, and starts researching modern physics, medicine, and physiology.
He's actively trying to decode his own mystical experiences.
Exactly. Why do that instead of just embracing the mysticism?
Because he embodies this rare form of critical thinking. He refuses to discard the ancient wisdom, but he also refuses to ignore modern science.
Right.
By cross-referencing his deep spiritual states with objective scientific data, he's looking for the shared mechanisms, translating esoteric language into the vocabulary of modern neurology.
Which perfectly arms him for this bizarre challenge he takes on next. He takes this hyper-focused mind and walks straight into a logistical nightmare.
Oh, the tech lab.
The tech lab. He decides to teach technology to Koya tribal children in an environment that is fundamentally hostile to anything with a microchip.
The contrast between his highly ordered internal mind and the absolute chaos of his external reality is just striking.
Let's look at his daily routine. 4 hours of intense morning yoga. Then he hikes 2 kilometers down a rugged hill to the dining hall.
Right.
He teaches computers, digitizes 60-year-old crumbling ashram records, takes a nap in the computer hall, and then waits to teach 2 batches of kids coming back from school.
But the physical condition of the lab is the catalyst for everything. We have to understand what he was working with.
It's a total disaster.
Yeah,
They have 10 computers donated by Infosys,
Yeah.
but no battery backup. They rely entirely on a generator.
So the power fluctuates constantly.
Constantly. And the computers just crash.
Yeah.
Hard drives corrupt, motherboards fry, plus zero internet connection. Nothing.
Yeah.
And if he needed to make a phone call to get help or parts, he couldn't use a smartphone. He had to hike 3 kilometers back up the hill just to get a weak signal.
Wow.
He was limited to using the main office phone for exactly 30 minutes a day. I mean, how do you teach modern IT to children when your computers keep dying and the internet doesn't exist?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it forces a profound realization about problem solving. When your external tools completely fail you, when the software crashes, the power dies, you have to rely on internal tools.
Right.
He couldn't teach them Microsoft Word because the computer might shut off mid-sentence. It forced him to invent a method that relied entirely on the one resource that couldn't be unplugged, which is internal human focus.
Which brings us to the curriculum he built. Because it was completely unique, highly rebellious, and wildly successful, he didn't teach the software at all.
No, he bypassed it entirely. He taught them touch typing.
Yeah.
But not to turn them into administrative assistants. He used typing as a mechanical tool to build concentration.
He pushed it so far that he taught them to type completely blindfolded. And not just random paragraphs. They were typing ancient texts like the Vishnu Sahasranama and Lalita Sahasrana.
Those are incredibly dense, 1,000-name Sanskrit hymns.
Yes. And they typed them blindfolded without a single error across 4 languages.
Right.
English, Telugu, Hindi, and Sanskrit.
The sheer cognitive load required for that is staggering. Think about it. You're asking a child to hold a complex spatial map of a QWERTY keyboard in their working memory, then map that to 4 different linguistic alphabets, and maintain the focus to mentally process a Sanskrit chant and output it through their fingertips without looking.
It's basically an active manifestation of that dharana siddhi he was practicing in his hut.
Exactly. He was teaching high-level meditation disguised as a computer class.
It's a brilliant bait and switch, and such a departure from what the kids are used to. The essay points out previous corporate IT trainers had come through and just played boring, downloaded science videos.
Right, because they ignored his fundamental rule. Kids demand immediate gratification.
So our yogi breaks the rules. The ashram strictly forbade movies, but he smuggles in James Cameron's Avatar.
It was a deeply strategic, culturally empathetic move.
He used Avatar as a Trojan horse. These kids are from an indigenous community with a profound connection to their forest, and they resonated perfectly with the movie.
Once he hooked them with that immediate gratification, he transitioned them into the extreme discipline of blindfold typing.
It worked. Younger kids in 6th, 7th, and 8th grades were literally begging to join the computer lab. Visiting educational officials like the DEO and MEO were blown away. Even the ashram's Mataji Naneshwari was stunned by the dead silence of the room.
He proved his internal technology was superior to any external software.
But the narrative doesn't stop in the lab. And this is the part that really challenges modern sensibilities. All of this culminated in a real-world physical healing ability.
Yes, using his guru's Ashwamedha yoga technique.
Okay, I have to jump in here and push back on this. Because if I'm listening right now, my skeptical alarm bells are ringing loudly. We went from typing blindfolded to claiming he can remotely cure severe medical issues.
I know, it sounds like a massive leap.
The source claims he resolved labyrinthitis, sciatica, muscular neuron disorder, and even cured patients in long-term comas from a distance. I need you to explain the underlying logic here.
It absolutely sounds impossible to the modern ear. But through the lens of the Nath tradition, the mind and physical body aren't separate. And physical space isn't an empty void, it's an interconnected energy field.
Okay.
The theory is that a diseased body is a system suffering from severe energetic disorganization. By achieving dharana siddhi, the absolute perfection of concentration, he believes he generates a highly organized, coherent, energetic field in his own mind.
And projects it.
Exactly. The mechanism isn't magic. It's the belief that introducing an organized frequency into a disorganized system triggers the autonomic nervous system to repair itself, regardless of distance.
It's almost like a biological version of quantum entanglement.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Applying the physics of resonance to human physiology through concentrated attention.
The most compelling evidence in the essay is that famous, highly educated medical doctors actually started referring their most unsolvable cases to him.
Yeah.
And some of those doctors were his former computer students.
It's an incredible full-circle validation of his synthesis of science and discipline.
So what does this all mean? Look at this wild trajectory. From bookstore owner to isolated mountain yogi meditating for 6 days straight, to renegade computer teacher, to globally recognized remote healer.
If we synthesize his journey, he was constantly building a single massive bridge, taking modern medicine, physics, and tech, and fusing them with the ultimate potential of the human mind. He proved that our internal software is vastly more powerful than our external hardware.
It's a beautiful realization.
Yeah.
As we wrap up today's deep dive, I think the biggest takeaway is the irony of our current era. We feel like we need the newest, fastest technology to survive. But the most effective way to navigate our distracted reality might just be rooted in the most ancient, low-tech practice. Deep, unbroken focus.
And that leaves us with a critical, somewhat unsettling thought. In our modern world, massive tech corporations spend billions every year researching how to hijack your attention. They weaponize our need for immediate gratification.
And really do.
So we have to ask, what if the ancient practice of dharana siddhi, the absolute mastery of your own concentration, isn't just a spiritual goal anymore? What if, in an age where your attention is the most extracted currency on earth, mastering your focus is actually the ultimate form of modern rebellion?
Wow.
What if it is the single most crucial survival skill you can possess in the 21st century?
That is a wildly powerful thought to leave on. Your focus is your absolute ultimate defense. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We encourage you to keep questioning the world around you, keep exploring those hidden connections, and above all else, guard your focus. We'll catch you next time.